Hi, I'm Larkin Swain. Welcome to Sanctuary, an ongoing conversation for seekers like me who want to dive deep into the meaning and power of the temple. These are expansive, transparent, and sometimes challenging conversations with thoughtful and wise people about the history, the symbols, the rituals, and the experiences that make up temple worship. I have a lot of questions. Maybe you do too. Welcome to the journey. Hey guys, welcome to Sanctuary. My name is Larkin Swain. I've got Bill Turnbull with me, and this is our first episode of this podcast, YouTube channel, where we're going to be exploring and discovering the temple.
Yeah, can't wait to do this. This has been a long time coming, actually.
Yeah.
When did we think of this idea? Faith Matters has wanted to do a show on like really exploring temple, but then we thought, like, who could conceivably host a show like this? And then I meet Larkin Swain. Do you remember that? Let's see.
Yeah, we met
like 2 years ago? A year ago?
It was a year, not even a year ago.
Okay.
It wasn't. We met at Thomas's
Thomas
meditation
McConkey's retreat. Yeah, 3-day retreat. And
just in December.
Was it really? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
A lot has happened since then. Yeah.
And I just remember you made a comment because it was a lot of teaching and a lot of meditation. So there was like, and you made a comment toward the end of the retreat, right at the end. And I'm like, who's that girl? And so I can't remember what you said, but I remember how you said it. And it was like, I thought, oh, she's really interesting. And I got a sense that you had a really interesting story. Should we talk about your story a little bit and like how you came to be interested in this topic and eventually why do the show?
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's hear about Larkin Swain.
It's a big story. Well, it started here in Orem, Utah. This is where I was born and raised. And yeah, I just grew up, cliche Mormon upbringing, 7 kids. I'm the second youngest. My dad taught at BYU. Like I had really faithful, active parents who were really engaged with the church, with their community. And then, I started growing up, and around maybe 15 or 16, I went through a lot of hard stuff. There was a series of events that just left me feeling really broken and lost. And I didn't know who I was anymore. And I didn't feel connected to faith. I didn't know who God was. I think in hindsight, I felt abandoned by God. I don't think I recognized that at the time, but I think I felt abandoned by God and that there wasn't a place for me here.
Did it start by like just not hearing the music? It just wasn't resonating with you, the church experience, or was it something that like more specific that some experience that made you feel distant from?
Yeah. I was really engaged when I was younger. I loved it. I loved Jesus. I loved girls' camp. I loved going to church. I loved making comments. I felt really engaged at one point. And then I got mixed up in the wrong crowd of friends was, I think, a big part of it. And I made mistakes. I started to just feel not like myself. And I think there was shame there. I think that was part of it. Yeah, I didn't know how to show up the same way. And as I was growing up and figuring out who I was.
Did it feel like you'd have to live 2 different lives to show up?
Yeah.
Is that sort of it?
Yeah,
okay.
Totally.
All right.
Yeah. And life was getting hard, and I felt like I was promised peace and blessings and joy, and I wasn't feeling any of those things. And so I decided I was going to go find it. I always had this feeling inside that I could be happy and I could overcome this deep depression and anxiety and just the struggle. And if I just went looking for it, I'd find it. So I did. So I started looking. My friend took me to a yoga class one day, and I felt this sense of spirit and community in that space. And I was longing for that. And that really kickstarted this journey of connecting with a lot of Eastern philosophy and religion and just seeking in general. I just found this hunger inside of me to learn and find truth. And so I started looking. But also I was, a teenager who was trying to deal with big pain and was making a mess of myself at the same time, coming up with all kinds of coping mechanisms and ways to numb out. I got involved in drugs. That was a big thing for a handful of years that, yeah, just took me down some dark path.
These like addictive drugs or more like psychedelic drugs? What kind of what was your drug experience? Kind of all of the above?
Kind of all of it.
Wow.
I think that you know, growing up, there were rules and guidelines. You know, you don't do this, you don't do this. And I was like all on board for that. My identity as a kid is I was the angel child that didn't cause any problems and the easy kid. And then I think I just broke eventually. And then I identified with being broken. And I just thought like, all right, whatever, I'm broken. So I don't need to be this person I once was. And anything goes then. I wanted to go experience the world and I wanted to know why I wasn't allowed to do certain things. And yeah, I think I'm a really curious person and I like to learn through experience. And that has gotten me into a lot of trouble, unfortunately.
But it's interesting that you also had like a spiritual, like there was some inclination to seek spiritual health amidst this unstructured life that you're living. Like, so you're a seeker and you probably found companions along in that path on both probably in the partying and in the spiritual seeking, or did those two merge together? Like, what'd your friend group look like at this time?
Just a bunch of hooligans, really. But I love them. I actually am still connected with some of them.
And we're talking about what age now? Well,
16, 17.
Okay.
Like,
and you stayed at home?
High school.
Like you're still living at home? I was
still living at home. We were very artsy. We wanted to break through these boxes we felt like society was placing us in and be different. And yeah, and I think that we were all reaching for something. And I think the drugs was part of that. You know, I always felt inside of me that there was something more than all of this. And I just wanted to find it and access it. Maybe it's God. I don't know. But I knew there was something more than this mundane, empty reality that I was experiencing. And so the drugs kind of gave me a taste of that for a moment, but it was very short-lived. And it started off as just like explorative and fun, but it spiraled pretty quickly. And I found myself one day up in the middle of the night. I'd been up for days. I pretty much lost my friends. I didn't even know how it happened, but I just had isolated myself so much. The pain was just growing inside of me, this pain. And I realized that I had gotten myself into a really bad place. And I was dealing with addiction. I had lost a lot of weight. I was sick and I looked sickly. And my family didn't know what to do with me. I was the first kid that ever stepped away from not just faith, but also these unspoken rules of what's expected, what's okay and what's not okay. And my parents had no idea what to do with me. I mean,
there's a whole other story to be told here from the parents' perspective.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, I'm so grateful to them looking back for the way that they just stuck it through. But we were both growing up when they were learning how to parent me and this child in this new way that they never had to before. And we all made a lot of mistakes along the way. But yeah, yoga is actually what brought me out of what saved me from addiction. I did a teacher training right out of high school, and I quit right before cold turkey. I don't know how I was able to do that.
Quit drugs?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Pills. Okay. Specifically.
All right.
If we're gonna get into the nitty gritty details of it.
The opioid
I was still
stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I was still smoking a lot of weed and all that.
Yeah.
But yeah, yoga saved me. It gave me a sense of purpose and connection. I think not just to a community, but to my body and my spirit that I was really longing for. And then from there, I started looking in all kinds of places and studying. And I fell in love with meditation and started to fall in love with health in general. I started studying alternative healing modalities. I also was dealing with, I didn't mention this part, but a lot of health issues were coming up for me, chronic illness. And I was trying to figure out how to heal myself. So I was looking in a lot of different places for healings. And that was going on for a few years. And then around age 20, I felt like I hit a ceiling or I don't know, I exhausted my resources. It felt like I was trying to resolve these things that I was struggling with. A lot of it was mental health stuff. I just wasn't getting anywhere.
And where were you at this point?
At this point, I was living in Salt Lake
Okay.
with a couple friends in the avenues, still smoking a lot of weed. I was making music at the time, trying to be an artist, and I was looking for meaning, and spirituality meant quite a bit to me at that point. I had my daily yoga and meditation practice, and I was reading a lot of books, but I don't know, I just still felt empty, and I wanted so much more, and I felt like there was so much more available to me. I didn't know where to find it. And I don't know, I woke up one morning and I was like, I'm still really unhappy. I just thought, okay, maybe anything's possible, and I'm just going to get out my journal and I'm going to envision, what does my dream life look like? And I'm living on this island, and I'm in the jungle, and I just feel free, and I'm barefoot, and
I can see your vision board.
Yeah, I love nature, and I just had this vision of, if I could just live
where would
immersed
that be?
in nature without having to work for anyone, and just create my own life, that would be amazing. I'm sure I would be happy.
Yeah.
And the Bali came to mind for me. I didn't actually know about anything about Bali, but it just came to mind, and I decided in that moment I was going to move there. I didn't know anything about it.
It's pretty cool. We were just there for a while. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you guys were there.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful.
It's amazing.
It's
also
amazing.
like a center for people like you at that stage of life, kind of like, especially Eastern oriented, kind of new agey,
nomadic,
spiritual nomads. Yeah. There's quite a few of them.
Totally.
In Bali.
Which I didn't actually realize that. It just came to my mind as a spot to go, and I was like, great. I looked up some pictures and I was like, perfect. So I think maybe 4 months later, I hopped on a plane with one of my best friends at the time. She came out with me for a month, and then she went home, and I stuck around, and I did some work trade. I lived on a farm. I was living my dream. It was really surreal. I was 20, and I just felt like anything was possible. I had stepped into this new world, and it was so exciting, and it was so beautiful. And for a while, I felt really free and capable and independent, and it was amazing. And Bali has this really, really rich spirituality.
It's incredible. Like the Balinese Hinduism's got to be the most interesting religion I've ever encountered. Yeah.
I was staying with a Balinese family at one point, and every day they're creating these offerings, and they have rituals and ceremonies, daily, weekly, monthly.
They ritualize everything.
Everything.
It's so cool.
Everything. Yeah. And I was so moved by it. I was talking to this woman, and she told me, I could be getting the exact number wrong, but I think it was about 90% of their income goes towards ceremony and ritual and offerings. I mean, they give their whole lives.
Yeah, their family temples are like, for people that live with such modest means, those family temples are
incredible,
extraordinary.
Yeah.
And that's so ritual actually is not something that you probably appreciated growing up, and you learned to appreciate ritual in Bali. And we're going to come back to ritual as we talk about temple, obviously, but that's fascinating.
Yeah. Ritual started to mean so much to me in that season of my life. It felt like this space that you could enter into and connect to something bigger than yourself. But
it's also something physical that you do on a regular basis. So it's grounding you in the physical, kind of grounding you in the physical at the same time it's opening to the spiritual reality. What is it about ritual, and what's the magic of ritual to you? What was it? What is it?
It feels like a pattern interrupt. It feels like you're stepping out of your daily patterns and habits and entering into a new space. There's something's changing. Yeah.
It's the sacred. It's like you're actually seeing the sacred in the everyday life and celebrating that sacredness, which, there's a lot we could say about how they do that in Bali, but we'll save that.
Yeah. So I was in Bali for 6 months, was nowhere ready to go home, but my visa was expiring. So I heard about this island in Thailand that a lot of these similar like-minded spiritual nomads would go live on. And I was like, perfect, take me to Thailand. And it is, at this point, January 2020. So COVID is now, people are starting to talk about COVID and talk about it more seriously. And I was like, what is this? But I'm not going home. So I just moved to this island. And I continued on this journey, and I'm living, I mean, it's just the most beautiful island that you can imagine. White sandy beaches. It's like moon sand, and the water's turquoise, and palm trees, and everyone's barefoot, and it's quite a small island. Everyone's driving around on mopeds. And
so it's not Koh Samui. What island is it?
It's Koh Phangan.
Okay.
Yeah, right next to Koh Samui, actually, but a little smaller. And yeah, I was living a dream. I thought I was everything I'd imagined I'd want for myself, but it didn't take long to realize I still felt empty. It was still something missing. And what's interesting about these communities, that they have these hubs all over the world, is there's this common goal of healing and spiritual ascension, if you will. And every day there were just a myriad of different workshops going on, and retreats and ceremonies, whether it was an inner child healing workshop or a breathwork retreat, yoga retreat, or a plant medicine ceremony. I mean, it was just every day. There was all day, every day, this hub of practitioners, healers, people trying to overcome their past and become something more. Yeah. And I related to that so much, and it meant so much to me. And I went all in. I mean, I was just so engaged. I was constantly putting myself into these really uncomfortable experiences to try to break through this, I don't know, this just brokenness I felt, these stories about myself that I could see were holding me back in so many ways. And
spiritual seeking also, like, it's interesting to imagine how that could have come from your Mormon roots, because we are like, we do take spiritual things very seriously. So it makes sense that when you get on another path, you're going to take that very seriously. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, completely. I was built for it. I don't know. It felt like everyone was selling me the answer, the solution. And not only was it not working, but I started to look around at these people, and I felt like something was missing for them too. Like they didn't quite have it. Like we were all reaching for something, but never actually taking hold of it. And I started to wonder, when does it stop? I mean, I'm surrounded by people who've given their whole life to the healing work, and it's really honorable. But when is it enough? And when do you just rest and feel happy and content with life and experience peace? And I wasn't experiencing that.
What did Paul say? Ever seeking and never coming to the knowledge of the truth, something like that. But it's like, well, I wonder if he was seeing. There was a version of that in his world too. I imagine.
I don't think the journey ever stops. But I definitely felt like I was missing something.
So you come to this point where you feel like your seeking has led to a sort of a dead end, and what happens?
What happened is I had this encounter with Jesus.
In Thailand. Okay. It's funny how many people meet Jesus in Thailand, which is very Theravada Buddhist.
In this Buddhist country. Yeah. There was a series of events that took place. I was definitely not looking for Jesus, I thought. In hindsight, he's all I was looking for. I just didn't realize it. But yeah, I kind of hit a rock bottom out there, and he found me there. It really unexpectedly, and kind of just like inserted himself into my life. I think he kind of felt like he was like, and we're done. Let me just, okay.
Okay. So what did that, like, describe that experience? Can you be more specific about how that happened? Yeah.
There was a series of events. So part of my path
was it a gradual awakening, or was it like some like?
Yeah. Part of what I was doing, I mean, right, I've got this history with drugs. I love the earth, and I've always felt really connected to plants and felt really called to the plant path. I mean, I'm an herbalist now for work. And so a lot of my spirituality at that point was sitting in these ceremonies, taking plant medicines that were psychoactive and having these deep.
Like ayahuasca? Ayahuasca
was the main one. Okay. Doing it pretty frequently. And at first it was amazing. And then I started to just lose myself. Yeah, I just felt so ungrounded, and I just really didn't even know who I was anymore. But I felt like it was so important that the narrative was you go through the dark to reach the light. And as you keep pulling back these layers, eventually you'll arrive to this place of healing. And so I was like, great, let me go through another ayahuasca ceremony and purge my guts out. Maybe that'll do the trick.
There's a lot of throwing up, I understand.
Yeah, you have a bucket next to you and you just... Yeah, I think I was convinced it needed to be hard and painful and extreme.
Is that true?
No, I don't believe so anymore.
Okay. All right.
I don't. But there was one night in particular where I was sitting in this ayahuasca ceremony and having a horrible experience. I'm in a lot of pain and I saw no way out. It was really dark, and it's 8 hours pretty much of this experience. And by the end of the night, everyone had kind of come back down and left the room, and it was just me and my shaman. And I was really scared. I was really afraid at this point because nothing was shifting. I just felt stuck in this hell, and I didn't know how to get out. And asked for his help. He tried to help me. Nothing happened. And I was just sitting there in pain and afraid. And suddenly this vision burst forth before me, and it was Jesus on the cross. It was just light. I mean, it wasn't like I saw any details, but I just saw this light, and I just felt him, and I heard the words, "It is finished." And then it was gone. The vision was gone, but so were all the visions. I mean, I was back in my body, and all the pain was gone, and I just felt this peace and this stillness. And frankly, I didn't know what to make of it. I just thought, cool, Jesus is this ascended master who came to help me out. Like, thanks, man. Really needed the help. And like, I kind of just brushed off my shoulder, to be honest. I mean,
it's a very specific phrase that you heard, though. It is finished, because
I didn't know what it meant.
Yeah.
Really. At the moment, I didn't. But I was just grateful. I was just grateful to be finished with that experience. But I couldn't stop thinking about it.
It might have stuck in your mind from scripture way back. And
yeah, I remembered it being like maybe the last thing he said on the cross. And I had a vague idea of what that meant, this work he had done for us. But I didn't perceive Jesus as this savior at that point in my life, or a descended God. I saw him as this prophet, maybe.
Sure. Yeah.
I think I didn't want it to mean something.
Right, because
really
that leads to other things.
Yeah, I had no interest in going back to that world, but I couldn't stop thinking about him. And interestingly, the next day I opened my phone, and I hadn't been on social media maybe in a year, but for some reason I opened Instagram, and this life coach whose work I had been following for a long time, she had made a post. And this woman, she had a huge following, a podcast that was really big, and she's making a lot of money and impacting a lot of people. And she had played a huge part in my journey. And she had this video, and it was just a guy interviewing her. And she basically said, everything I've told you up to this point is wrong. Jesus Christ is the answer. He's the only thing that's real. And she apologized for everything she had shared, and that she had led people in the wrong direction. And I was so shocked. And I clicked on her profile. All of her posts were gone. Her website was down. Her podcast was gone. And I was blown away. I mean, she had tons of followers.
What's her name? We could edit this out if you don't.
Caitlin Pasternak. She's still leading the way, actually, in powerful ways, but in the Christian community. Wow. Yeah. Okay. But what struck me was that her words were mind-blowing, because they're so different from anything she had shared up to this point. But what struck me was her countenance, that something about her was just so different. There was just this innocence to her that it felt so different. And as I was watching this video, I just started to weep. And I had chills all over my body, and I just felt like something was happening to me, especially because I had this experience the night before where I saw Jesus, and I didn't really know what to make of it, and was kind of trying not to think about it, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. And then this happened, and I was like, what is going on? This has to mean something. And I'm the kind of person that makes meaning out of everything. And I just thought, this has got to mean something, and I don't want it to, but I know it does. And then it just felt like everywhere I looked, I saw him. And every time I closed my eyes, I saw him and I heard those words, and I couldn't let it go. I couldn't shake it. And I started looking around me, and more was having these feelings of like, what are we all doing? I mean, we're all trying to heal and overcome these challenges, and the world is broken. Everyone needs healing desperately. I mean, it's 2020. It's the middle of COVID. The world feels like it's falling apart completely. It feels like the end of the world. And not everyone has the privilege of going on their eat, pray, love journey and living on an island in Thailand and going to these inner child workshops.
At some point,
all
it feels
day.
a little self-indulgent. It's like,
yeah. And also like, and it's still not working.
Yeah, right.
We've given everything to this, and it's still not enough, it feels like. And so what is it? And I just kept having this feeling. I heard this voice inside of me that said, there's another way. There's another way. You can heal and you can be free, and it can be immediate. You don't need all of these extra steps to get there. You can have it, and it can be right now. And I was just like, please don't be Jesus. Please let it be something different. But eventually I was living with my boyfriend at the time, and we had plans to have a family together and create this amazing life together. I had my whole life and identity was built.
Some off-grid natural life.
Yeah, of course.
I can see it.
Yeah. Travel the world. And suddenly I just felt like it was all crashing down. It was all becoming irrelevant. And I left the island eventually. Kind of felt like I was going mad. And I'm also surrounded by, I mean, doomsdayers, the new age community. There's a lot of like, there's the conspiracy, and COVID was happening. And I was like, great, the world's falling apart. I can never go back to the States. I'm never going to see my family again. I was just like 20 years old and terrified. Yeah. And I didn't know where the answers were. So I left the island and I moved up into the mountains in a little town called Pai, just north of Chiang Mai. And just moved into this tiny little bungalow and kind of went on a sort of sabbatical. And I was still really resistant to what I was feeling, but one night I finally just kind of fell apart and got down on my knees and I started praying. And
Had you prayed on your knees in a while?
Years.
A while? Okay. Yeah.
Years since I'd like gotten on my knees and prayed to a God. My relationship to God at that point is I didn't see it as someone outside of me that I could talk to and pray to. You know, I meditated and I believed in this universal God that who was
grounded
us,
being,
and
sort of.
Yeah, but I didn't believe I had a parent that I could talk to and who could help me through this. But in that moment, I needed one desperately, and
someone who could have an actual relationship with. Yeah,
I just felt so alone. The metaphor of me leaving home and just going as far away as I could, the opposite side of the world, and living on this tiny island and isolating myself from my family and my upbringing, and I was just trying to escape my old life and everything that I was, and you can't escape yourself, unfortunately, or fortunately. I just felt so alone. And so I started praying. I got down on my knees and I started praying like I've never prayed in my life, with just such a desperation and a need. And I just said, like, all right, Jesus, if you are who they say you are, I'm ready to throw everything I think I know out the window. I just want to know the truth. And I can't do this alone anymore. So if you're real, I actually need you to tell me. And I just prayed. My whole heart and soul. And I don't know, I passed out at some point. And I was kind of just for hours just crying and praying and trying to feel something, and passed out at some point. Woke up the next morning, opened my eyes, and I just I shot right out of bed in this shock, because as long as I could remember, I'd woken up with some kind of pit in my stomach, some kind of heaviness in my chest, this feeling of emptiness and pain and anxiety. And I woke up, I opened my eyes, and I just felt peace. I felt filled to the point of overflowing with this feeling of peace and comfort and love and presence that like I just didn't feel alone. And it was such a stark difference from what I had known for so many years that like it shocked me. It just felt like someone had poured a bucket of water over my head and woken me up from this nightmare. And it was like waking up and feeling like, whoa, how long was I asleep for? Like everything just became so clear in that moment. And I just felt this sense of home. You know, like the thing I'd been looking for so many years. I knew I should have brought tissue.
Where's our tissue here?
I had a feeling I should have brought some and I forgot. Yeah, I just knew. Just like without a doubt, I just knew in that moment it was him. That he was the one I'd been looking for all that time. And yeah, I was just like, I'd had these moments during my journey where I felt like I'd had a breakthrough. And there was these highs, but they were always followed by a low, this momentary bliss of feeling like I had broken through, had some kind of realization, and all of it became so irrelevant in that moment because nothing felt like what I felt in that moment. It was like this peace that was unmoving inside of me. It was rock solid. Yeah. And I said in that moment, okay, all right, Jesus, I get it. Like it's you. You were who I was looking for, and I'm ready to give my life to you. I mean, my whole life and identity, everything came crashing down in that moment. None of it.
Part of your identity had been, I'm this spiritual warrior. I'm this seeker. I'm this, like, you can imagine building an identity around that. And that had to be, you had to let go of that identity. What other identities did you have to let go of?
I mean, it's just like all of these belief systems that I had around who God is and who I am and what I need and what I don't need. And I was living this rambunctious life. I was doing whatever I wanted. You know, what freedom was, this belief around what freedom is, what it is to be free. And I wasn't free at all. And in that moment I was tasting true freedom. And it was nothing like what I thought it was going to be.
Did you have anybody to share this with? Because when I was in my youth, I had an experience that, you know, and a lot of people that would be watching and say, yeah, I can identify with a lot of what you just described. I remember just wanting desperately to share it, like the joy of that experience. And did you like run around the village saying, hey?
Actually, yeah. there was some of that. What's funny is just maybe a few days before I had met this man in a cafe. We chatted for a little bit. He's from Rome. A few days later, after I had this experience, I ran into that same guy, and he ran up to me, grabbed my shoulders and shook me. And he said, what happened to you?
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, something happened to you. You look completely different and you feel so different. And I want what you have. Please tell me what you did. And I just said, it's Jesus. I don't know. It's Jesus. And he was like, what do you mean?
Jesus is not it's not a very welcome word in these communities.
Not at all. Not at all. It's very triggering.
I mean, often people are fleeing from their idea. I'm curious, that's maybe for another time, but why couldn't you encounter this Jesus, you know, when you were younger? What was it that there's another set of beliefs and constructs maybe around Jesus that isn't consistent with the Jesus you experienced in that moment, right? I don't know.
I think growing up, I understood that to experience a relationship with Jesus Christ, you do this and this and this and this in this order. And you go to church and I'm not hating on going to church, but I think there was like one template of how you experience Jesus Christ and where you experience him and how to be in relationship with him. And frankly, I think that template was really tainted with this idea of perfectionism for me when I was younger. And I felt so far from perfect that I thought, well, I'm not perfect, so I can't have this relationship with him. I'm not
took
meeting
yourself
these standards.
outside of a relationship with Jesus. Yeah.
Yeah. I just didn't feel worthy of it. I didn't feel like it didn't feel accessible because I knew I wasn't gonna follow the template. And here I am so far from it. And
what do you think of that? Just a little side. What do you think of that word worthy when you say it now? What do you think of that?
I used to hate that word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Feel better about it now?
Yeah. It's funny. I was just talking to my dad about this morning. I recently learned that the Hebrew word for worthy, I don't know if you've looked this up.
Enlighten me.
From what I understand, I can't remember the exact word, but it means to be seen. And that really struck me because there's this whole idea of worthiness to enter the temple. And we talk about worthiness, and I hated it because I never felt worthy. And
let's say worthy, it's like am I
my
worth
is
anything?
determined by if I can meet the standard.
So that's deeply problematic. It really is. Yeah. So you've come to at least understand the term in a new way.
What I took from that when I learned that this word for worthy, it means to be seen, is God just wants this honest relationship with us where we are willing to come to him and let him see all of us and not hide anything. And that doesn't mean fix it necessarily. Like I've got to figure myself out before I can come to him, but rather let him meet me in the mess and be willing to be seen in it and let him work with me in that space. And if we're willing to do that, that
seems like a healthy recasting of the idea.
Yeah.
But I can't help but realize that it's sort of like a mistranslation because it has consequences in people's lives. Yeah.
Totally.
We should always be open to examining our religious vocabulary, because it actually can.
Yeah, I think that was something that I struggled with for a while is there were these words that were circulating in our community that we used all the time that just felt stale to me and didn't penetrate deeply for me. That's something I struggled with coming back as well.
Yeah, let's talk about coming back. Why? So Jesus, yes.
Yeah, okay. So one of the first things I said after this experience, this born again experience really, is Jesus, all right, I get it. It's you. I'm ready to give my life to you and walk with you, but I'm not going back to church. I was adamant that I didn't want to. I didn't feel like I needed it. I still don't believe that you need to go to church to have an amazing relationship with Jesus Christ. But he wanted a lot more for me. And so initially I just started reading the Bible. It didn't make any sense to me, but I was like, okay, I'm going to read the Bible. And then I just went on long walks and I talked to him and tried to figure out how to have a relationship with God, which wasn't something I had at that point. So I felt really awkward and new and like a child learning how to walk all over again. And it felt hard. It was challenging.
Yeah, it's kind of one thing for Jesus to announce, to reach into your world. That's another thing. It's like, okay, now how do we have a relationship? What does a relationship look like?
Completely. Yeah. I had this experience where there was this burst of light and immense clarity that came into my life, but then I still had my heart to deal with that had undergone years of disconnection and numbing and putting up walls and desensitizing to the spirit. And it wasn't like it was all just resolved in the moment. He took me on this journey with the spirit of thawing this frozen heart and opening me up to this whole new world and language and understanding of him and myself and the world around me. And for a while I was resistant to go back to church. I just read the Bible and I pretty much just hung out with God all day and that was it.
And you'd moved back to US?
I was in Thailand for maybe another
It'd be hard to find a church in Thailand a little bit.
Yeah, there definitely wasn't one on the island I was living on. Up to that point, I had no plans of going back to the States anytime soon. But one morning I was talking to God and he said, go home, like right now. And 5 days later, I was on a plane. I'd packed up, given away pretty much all my things, said goodbye to this community that I'd had for the last year and my partner, who I thought I was going to share my life with. And
how do you take that?
It was heartbreaking for both of us.
Right.
But also I had this sense of just peace It was February. I'd been living in an eternal summer in the jungle.
Yeah.
And I was about to go back to the ugliest time of year in Utah. And I just felt peace. I had no plans for my life. I had no idea what I was going to do. I didn't have really a community back home to land in. It was really heartbreaking. Everyone I said goodbye to, I said goodbye knowing I'd probably never see them again.
Yeah.
I have a handful of friends though that I'm still connected with, but
imagine going home and saying, who could understand and share this experience? Like,
yeah, it sometimes it still feels like that.
Does it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Although I have met more and more young people who have traveled like a similar path. And Thomas actually has very interesting resonance, obviously, with Thomas McConkie's path. Yeah.
Totally.
There's like a condensed version of that.
Yeah. That's why his work partly has been so valuable to me, is there's a lot of similarities there.
Yeah.
So I came home and moved in with my sister, just moved onto their farm and read the scriptures every day and had no idea what I was doing with my life. One morning I was reading the Bible and God said, okay, close it. I loved the Bible at that point. I really had a testimony in it, and it was transforming my relationship with God and who I was as a person. But yeah, one morning he just asked me to close it and open the Book of Mormon. And I was like, oh no.
That's another thing.
I was like, no, please. Like I knew.
It's like a door. It's like a portal.
Yeah, I was just like, no. Pandora's box. It's like, if I open this, what?
Yeah.
There's no going back. But I also was curious too. I think I was curious what it'd be like to read that book with this new perspective and relationship with Jesus that felt really real. Curious and terrified. But I did. I opened it.
Did you go to First Nephi 1 or where'd you go?
First Nephi 1.
Right.
And I just started reading and I was blown away, actually. I mean, still I was like, I don't totally know what's going on, but something happens inside of me when I read this book. I felt that way with the Bible, but the Book of Mormon felt like that on steroids. Like when I would spend time in this book, I was a different person. I would show up differently. I just had more patience and love for those around me. My ability to hear God's voice strengthened. And I just felt different. I was moving through the world differently. And I felt this sense of protection around me. Like there was this energetic field around me that just felt impermeable by the world and the darkness that I was fighting against still in a lot of ways. It felt like spiritual warfare those early days.
Did it feel like there were still forces after you?
Yeah, it did actually. I had done a lot of numbing and put up a lot of walls around my heart for many years. And I had to fight against that every day, against this apathy, fight to stay engaged and to keep wanting it, even though it felt hard and uncomfortable. And I had started over my whole life and everything about my life was different. And I didn't have a community. I didn't have any friends. I didn't have even my wardrobe. Like I had gotten rid of everything and it was just a clean slate, and it was really lonely in a lot of ways. And I just felt like there was this gravitational pull pulling at me, trying to keep me in these old ways, in this old orientation towards life. But then I felt God inviting me into something so much more that was less selfish and more connected to the world around me and the people around me. And I started realizing, okay, I want to actually be like Jesus and learn how to be more patient and selfless and take on these qualities that I hadn't really been thinking about for a while. So I started reading the Book of Mormon and it just got easier. Things just got easier. And then one day I was like, okay, I want to go to church, but not because I want to be Mormon. I just want to be around people who love Jesus. And I went to church and I loved it. Specifically the sacrament. I took the sacrament and I just felt different. Like something was happening inside of me, and I never left. But it took months. I still was like, I'm not Mormon. I'm not. I'm just here because I love Jesus, and I still had a lot of resistance. Yeah,
and you'd hear old ideas, old stale ideas, and you go, that's kind of.
There was a lot that
I can imagine, like, I think that's why I left in the first place. Or
yeah, totally.
Yeah, but could you see the people differently though? Like
totally.
Okay.
Totally. I felt this innocence though inside of me, and this.
It's what you named in that podcaster. It's like there's an innocence.
I felt really innocent and everything felt brand new. And I felt a lot of love for the people around me.
It's the old Eliot poem. You come back to where you started and it all feels new, right?
I love that poem. I know which one
yeah.
you're talking about. It's beautiful.
It's like you're seeing it for the first time.
The first time. Yeah, I love that poem. What kept me, though, was actually this invitation, this talk about this ability to be more greatly bound to God through covenant.
Who gave this talk?
No idea. I
Remember?
I was in a singles ward. It was just, it
somebody gave
could have even
a talk
been
in
a
church.
testimony.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean,
right.
and I'm hearing people talk about being in a covenantal relationship with God. And
feels very solid compared to what you've, the world that you've been living in. Yeah.
I was struggling. I was fighting to feel close to God and to learn how to be in relationship with him. And it felt, the way I describe it is, it felt slippery, that relationship. Like I just had to exert so much effort to stay connected and to stay focused, and all the time it just felt like it was slipping from my fingers. And I just was really in spiritual warfare. I felt like there was a lot of forces coming at me trying to keep me from that relationship. And when I heard about this ability to be bound to God, I was like, I want that. I need that desperately. And started thinking about going to the temple. And I was like, oh, okay, but I have to, if I go to the temple, that means I'm all in.
Yeah.
And so I wrestled with that for a while, but I just couldn't stop thinking about it, how much I wanted that. And a year and a half after my conversion, I got endowed, which was, as of last week, 3 years ago.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. What was your experience? Like, I'm guessing that, talk about stepping into another world. The temple is it's quite another world, right?
Quite another world. The initiatory was incredible. I felt like I was floating walking out of that room.
Yeah. It's like everyone almost universally has a beautiful experience with those initial ordinances. Yeah. The washing and anointings.
Yeah. But the rest of the endowment was actually really hard for me.
Okay. Yeah.
I wanted it to be amazing so bad. I went to temple prep and I read as many scriptures and talks as I could and read books, and I wanted to feel so ready for it. Frankly, I didn't feel totally ready by that time, but my stake president told me, you're never ready until you actually do it. Really, it's the process itself that makes you ready. And I was like, all right, I'm just going to take the leap and do it. And I'm so glad I did, but it was hard for me. It was hard to step back into a ritualistic space after my history. There's one point where I was like, am I in another cult? Like I just got out of one. And I was like, darn it, wait a second. Which, hey,
probably the prayer circle.
It was the prayer circle. It was the prayer circle. I was
Okay.
like, okay, somebody could have prepared me for this. I do wish that someone had walked me through exactly what was going to happen.
And that's
so
part of the reason
no
why we're going to. Part of the reason why we're going to do this series, to help people walk through this and understand what it is, but and how you might experience it differently. Yeah, but so there was a side of this experience that was maybe challenging. Was there a part of it that also felt like, there's something here?
Yeah, I mean, I sat in the celestial room and I wept. I wept. I just felt like, okay, I'm here for a reason. There's some reason I'm here. I know God led me to this place specifically, so I'm going to find out why. And I just decided in that moment I was going to lean in and I was going to learn about the temple and I was going to keep coming back. And I did. And it was hard actually for a while. There's still things that I push up against that are challenging, but I just found that the more I spent time in that place, the more miracles started happening around me and I transformed. I just would feel different. And specifically after my endowment, I felt like when before my relationship with God felt slippery and it felt like there were these walls, after getting endowed, it felt like this ceiling had been removed and God felt so much more accessible to me, and like doors had been opened inside of me, and a truer self felt more accessible to me. This version of myself that I know I could be, but I couldn't always access, just became available.
The temple sort of helps give shape to what that life could be and what that relationship could be, doesn't it? Yeah, there's something about the temple rituals that give shape to a relationship with God.
Yeah. So we had a few issues in studio that resulted in our first episode ending a bit abruptly. So I want to apologize for that. But I also just want to thank you so much for tuning in to the first episode of Sanctuary and for listening to my story. That means so much to me. If you enjoyed this, please like, please subscribe, please leave a review. All of these things will help us to reach more people and invite them into this conversation that we feel is so important and so needed right now. We have so much to come that I'm so excited to share with you. So stay tuned and we'll see you there.